Recording now, this is lesson 1.6 on exploring multiples. Before watching the recording, please make sure you have the 1.6 exploring multiples sheet in front of you, along with the hundreds chart that looks like this. You should have a pencil and a few different colored highlighters or pencil crayons on hand too. If you need to pause the recording to get those items, please do that now. So I'm going to continue, and first we'll review some vocabulary from previous lessons or from previous years. So the first term we're going to look at is multiple. So in previous lessons, we talked about factors. So this lesson will deal with multiples, and multiple is the product of a given number and a whole number greater than 0. For example, some multiples of 6 are 6, 12, 18, and 24. So one way to think about finding the multiples of a number is by counting up. So for example, if we look at 6 here, the first multiple of 6 has to be 6 because it's 6 multiplied by 1 that will give you 6. If you add another 6 to that, you get 12. But another way of looking at that is going 6 times 2, that will give you 12. You can look at the third multiple of 6 as 6 times 3, which is 18. And then you can look at the fourth multiple of 6, which is 6 times 4, which will give you 24. So those are multiples of 6. Now, the next term we'll look at is common multiple. And a common multiple is a multiple shared by given numbers. For example, 12 is a multiple of 2 and a multiple of 3. So 12 is a common multiple of 2 and 3. So we'll deal with common multiples, and it'll be more clear when we look at the examples below. Finally, the last term is least common multiple, or LCM. And that is the multiple that is the least among all the common multiples of given numbers. Now, we're going to go through the two examples here. If you feel confident enough to do the examples on your own, I invite you to do that. Pause the recording now and then check your answers at the end. But I do want to introduce the hundreds chart to you. So take out the hundreds chart, and we're going to go through and see if we can find the multiples of 3 and 9. And essentially, you're counting by 3s or you're counting by 9s. But let's color code each one. So I'm going to use yellow to circle all the multiples of 3. And then I'm going to use orange to circle all the multiples of 9. And then this will enable us to easily see overlap in the common multiples. So on the previous page, I had just asked you to list the first 10 multiples of 3. So let's go 3. And again, you can pause the recording if you want to, and then just check your answer afterwards. I'm going to continue 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, and 30. So those are the first 10 multiples of 3 that I've circled in yellow. I'm going to go to orange now and circle the first 10 multiples of 9. I'm going to go 9 times 2 is 18, times 3 is 27, 36, 45, 54, 63, 72, 81, and 19. Okay, so now we can see we've listed all the multiples of 3 and all the multiples of 9. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to list them. Remember, you always start off with the multiple itself as the first multiple. So 3 would be 3 times 1, right? The next multiple of 3 would be 6, because that would be 3 times 2. And then you have 9, which is 3 times 3. And then you have 12, which is 3 times 4. Then you have 15, which is 3 times 5. And then you have 18, which is 3 times 6. And then you have 21, which is 3 times 7. And then you have 24, which is 3 times 8. And then you have 27, which is 3 times 9. And then you have 30, which is 3 times 10. So those are the first 10 multiples of 3. Now, another tip or trick to help you determine the difference between factors and multiples is that with multiples, you're always only ever asked to list a definite amount or a specific amount of multiples, because multiples can go on forever. With factors, you're always asked to list all the factors, right? You're always asked to list all the factors of a number. So think of factors as being all, okay? And it's finite, meaning factors are limited. The factors of a number are always limited, whereas with multiples keep going on and on and on and on. So you're always asked to list a specific amount. Okay, let's go back to the multiples of 9 here. So again, from the hundreds chart, we have 9 as being the first one, which is 9 times 1. And then we have 18, which is 9 times 2. And then we have 21, which is 9 times, oops, sorry, not 21, 27. Which is 9 times 3. One second. And then you have 9 times 4, which is 36. And then 9 times 5, which is 45. And then 9 times 6, which is 54. And then 9 times 7, which is 63. Times 8, 9 times 8, 72. 9 times 9, which is 81. And then 9 times 10, which is 90. So you have the first 10 multiples of 9 written out there too. So now you can easily see what the least common multiple is of 3 and 9. So remember, it's the multiple that's the lowest multiple that's common between 3 and 9. And I'm going to highlight that out here. We hit it pretty early. The LCM of 3 and 9 is actually 9, because that's the lowest number, the lowest multiple that's in common. Now, the other point to note are the next three least, the next, not the least. The next common multiples. What you'll notice is you'll notice a pattern. Because the LCM is 9, the next occurrence where there is a common multiple of 3 and 9 is 18. And you can see 18 appears with 3 and 9. So the next one would be 18. Okay. Now, because we've only listed up to 30 for the first 10 multiples of 3, the next occurrence of a common multiple would be one second. The next occurrence of a common multiple would actually be 27. All right, jump there. Okay. And then after that would actually be 36. Now, why was I able to predict that? Well, it's because if the LCM is 9, I know the next time it's going to happen is the next 9 after that, which would be 9 times 2, which would be 18, right? So this is a key number to know. After that, the next common multiple has to be 9 times 3, which is 27. And then the next common multiple after that would be 9 times 4, which is 36. If you look at the hundreds chart down here, you can see that every time you have a yellow and an orange circle on a number, that indicates it's a common multiple of 3 and a common multiple of 9. So the first LCM is 9, then it's 18 where you have yellow and orange, and then it's yellow and orange at 27. And then I know if we keep going with the multiples of 3, we know the next one's going to be 33. The next time it's going to occur is 36. So the difference is always 9 here. Okay, that's just for the multiples of 3 and 9. Now, we're going to do the same thing for the next question. So it's the list the first 10 multiples of 6 and 8. Let's use different colors though. Let's do green for multiples of 6. And you can choose different colors if you want. And then let's do blue for the multiples of 8. So again, if you want to pause the recording now and start circling out the multiples of 6 and the multiples of 8 on your hundreds chart, please go ahead and do that. But I'm just going to continue. So I'm going to go 6 times 2 is 12. And again, I'm only doing the first 10. Times 3 is 18. And then times 4 is 24. Times 5 is 30. Times 6 is 36. Times 7 is 42. Times 8, 48. Times 9, 54. And then times 10, which is 60. So now all in green represent the multiples of 8. You'll notice already that 18 is actually a common multiple of 3, 9, and 6 because we have yellow, orange, and green circling 18. You'll also notice the same thing with 36, a common multiple of 3, 9, and 6. Also with 54, a common multiple of 9, of 6, and if you go back to your divisibility rules, it's also a common multiple of 3 as well. So going to do the same thing with the multiples of 8. Again, I'm going to start off with 8. If you want to pause it again and do it yourself and then check in, you can. So 8 times 2 is 16. Times 3 is 24. Times 4 is, where are we at? Times 4 is 32. Times 5 is 40. Times 6. 8 times, where are we at? 40. 8 times 6 is 48. 8 times 7 is 56. 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 9 is 72. And 8 times 10 is 80. So again, notice what's common. So 24, for example, is a common multiple of 3, of 6, and of 9. So you see already some overlap there. Okay, let's go back here and list. And you can use your hundreds chart to help you list the multiples. So multiples of 6. So we always start off with the multiple itself because that's 6 times 1. And then it's going to be 6 times 2, which is 12. And then it'll be 6 times 3, which is 18. And it'll be times 4, which is 24. And then it'll be times 5. Oops. It'll be times 5, which is 30, times 6, which is 36, times 7, which is 42, times 8, which is 48, times 9, which is 54, and then times 10, which is 60. Same thing with 8. And again, if you want to pause it and do these yourself, you can. Times 1, which is 8. Times 2, which is 16. Times 3, which is 24. Times 4, which is 32. Times 5, which is 40. Times 6, which is 48. Times 7, which is 56. Times 8, which is 64. Times 9, which is 72. And times 10, which is 80. As in the above question, you need to locate what the LCM or the least common multiple is of 6 and 8. So if you look at the lowest common multiple of 6 and 8, we know that it's going to be 24 because that's the lowest number. So jot down 24 here. And remember the pattern above is that you can predict what the next common multiples are going to be after 24 because the difference has to occur every 24. You can already see the next common multiple after that has to be 48. So really, that's 24 times 2, which is 48. And then after that, 48 times 2, or sorry, not 48 times 2, that would be 24 times 3, which would be 72. And then the last one would be 24 times 4, which would be 96. So those are strategies in which you could find the multiples of numbers. So you think about it in terms of multiplication. For now, if you want, you may use the hundreds chart as a reference. But just keep in mind that it's really your multiplication and knowing how to identify the identify the multiples of a number. Make sure you understand how to locate the lowest common multiple and using that number to predict the next common multiples occurring with 2 or 3 numbers.